Federation.
Madam President, I would like to thank Assistant Secretary General Khiari for a detailed briefing on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory, including the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. We listened very closely to Shiru Efron and Michael Levy. We would like to express our condolences to Michael Levy and to all of those who are held by Hamas and other terrorist groups, and we do hope that their release will come as quickly as possible. To our great regret, all of the efforts being made by the Security Council of the United Nations to have a ceasefire and release the hostages to date have been blocked by the United States, who, since the 7th of October of last year, used their veto 6 times just to make sure that the Israeli military operation can continue in Gaza, and therefore that the lives of hostages continue being endangered. It is our understanding that as a result, only 1/3 of the Israelis captured are now being used in the lists that are discussed by negotiators, and we do wish very much that ultimately you will be reunited with your brother. As regards the silence of the Council and our not condemnation of Hamas, we were ready to do that on the 18th of October 2023, but our American colleagues vetoed a draft resolution on that. And this is something they are not at all in favor of being reminded today. Distinguished colleagues, as is clearly can be seen from the statement made by Khaled Khiari, the Security Council Resolution 2334 is not being implemented. Israelis continues with their plans to build new settlements on the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. They use a fabricated pretext that supposedly that there are no construction permits, and this is used to systematically destroy Palestinian homes. This is a height of cynicism where the Palestinians who cannot afford to pay the high duties to the Israelis are then compelled to, with their own hands, destroy their homes. This is a mockery of human dignity. Continued illegal construction and the widening of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, undermines a negotiated resolution to one of the final status issues, namely territory and borders. This is in violation of Security Council and General Assembly decisions, including the September resolution, which came out of the 10th Emergency Special Session of the GA in support of the second advisory opinion by the ICJ on the legal consequences of the Israeli policies on the occupied Palestinian territories. Against this background, we are particularly concerned by the statement made by the Israeli officials about forcibly change the demographics of Gaza so as to recolonize the Strip. We are full of indignation as regards the passage by the Knesset of a law on deporting the families of terrorists, which gives Israel the right to send to Gaza those Palestinians who did not tell them about the criminal intent of their relatives. This way, according to the Palestinians, suspect Palestinians can end up in Gaza, where his fate will be either die from starvation or being bombed. And these are the laws that are being adopted by the country, which claims that it is the only democracy in the Middle East. We think such steps are unacceptable, as are unacceptable the public appeals by some members of the Netanyahu government to annex the West Bank. We categorically reject the policy of creating facts on the ground. The Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory is illegal in any event from the viewpoint of international law, and there is no justification for it. We call on West Jerusalem to immediately start implementing Resolution 2334 and to stop all settlement activity. Madam President, today many have been talking about the continued violence in the OPT and used horrifying statistics. Since the beginning of the escalation in Gaza, there are already 44,000 Palestinians who were killed, and these are the ones we know about. Most of them are women and children. And against this background of these horrifying factors, the West Bank statistics somewhat overshadows. But there, since October 2023 to October 2024, 736 Palestinians died, and this is when officially there is no military operation there. The life of the Palestinians on the West Bank is essentially unbearable. The Secretary General the report is an illustration of the senseless and relentless violence on the part of Israeli settlers. On the 5th of October, 40 Israelis with rifles, clubs, crowbars, and pepper sprays started hunting for olive pickers. They beat up 25 Palestinians, broke their limbs, and cracked their skulls. There was a child who was a victim of this, a person with disability, a woman, and an elderly person. After that, the entire harvest was thrown out by the settlers. And then the Israeli policemen arrived. What did they do? They, after all, are there to maintain the law and order in the lawful state, according to the Israeli authorities. They dispersed the Palestinians using stun grenades. Such an attitude towards Palestinians as second-rate people is unacceptable, and the international community has to insist on ending this monstrous policy by Western Jerusalem. The West Bank situation cannot be considered outside of the broader context of Gaza escalation. It's been more than a year that's been going on. Security Council members tabled many times a resolution demanding unconditional ceasefire in Gaza as a first step to stabilize the situation at the OPT. Unfortunately, the United States, as we already said, have been consistently vetoing these documents, stating that no one should impose a peaceful solution on Israel. We are not arguing the fact that Israel is a sovereign state. Do not question their right to ensure their defense. But we are concerned that the Israeli side uses this right to justify not only fighting terrorism on their own territory, but also to impose a collective punishment of the Palestinian people in Gaza, West Bank, bombarding Lebanon, occupy Syrian lands. We get the impression that fully ensuring one's defense is seen by Israel as establishing a barren wasteland around them, targeted by Israeli tanks, drones, and fighter planes. And negotiating with Palestinians, Lebanese, and Syrians, West Jerusalem is planning to only do from the position of force and intimidation, expecting that Washington will also cover them and provide them with diplomatic and military support. But this is not a way to resolve a conflict. This is how to deepen them. If you push people to a situation where they have nothing to lose, well, don't be surprised when radical ideas become popular. Or don't be surprised when essentially there is a freeze of the process of normalizing relations between regional actors and Israel against the backdrop of Gaza. Instead of looking for solutions of problems, West Jerusalem is creating new ones, coming into effect early next year of the Knesset bills banning UNRWA will mean the end of functioning and the dismantling of a key UN agency to help Palestinians, to which there's no alternative. This is a direct violation of the Charter, General Assembly resolutions which determine the mandate of the agency, and international law. This is also a prologue to removing refugees issues as one of final status issues together with borders, water, and Jerusalem. The Israeli action in Gaza do not make us hopeful that Israel, as the occupying power, will take upon itself all of the UNRWA functions. Madam President, we believe there is an alternative to what is happening in the OPT, and the alternative is in the will of the international community, which is illustrated in the overwhelming majority who voted for the resolution at the 10th Emergency Special Session of the Assembly in support of UNRWA mandate and with a demand for a ceasefire in Gaza. The Russian position of principle on Middle East settlement concurs with the will of the international community. We call for an unconditional ceasefire, unimpeded humanitarian access, release of all hostages and those who are forcibly detained, and relaunching peace process on a generally recognized international legal basis. This is the only way not only to get to lasting peace between the Palestinians and Israelis, but also to remove the source of destabilization for the entire region. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you.